We Americans live in two vastly different worlds, buttressed by two separate and completely opposite streams of information. One fact-based, and one based purely on ideology. Thanks for that, Rupert Murdoch.
So just before last night's debate, CNN ran a story claiming, without any proof at all, that Bernie Sanders had once told Elizabeth Warren that a woman could not be president. Sanders denied that charge vigorously, but the message was unmistakable and crystal clear. He's a sexist. Don't vote for him.
Right. I mean, Bernie Sanders does have a sort of physicality, you know, when he talks, that is a shaking your finger at Hillary Clinton, shaking your finger, shovey, weirdy.
As it's meant to revive in people's minds all the complaints that the Clinton people had about the Bernie bros who were mean to her and picked on her.
I think Bernie's lying. We see him, he slouches forward anyway, Joy, but here he turtles.
Elizabeth Warren is gasping for attention at this point.
And this was her Hail Mary. She decided the calculation was such that this was her last gasp, and she took it.
Because she's falling in the polls.
His whole shoulders come up like a little kid getting caught.
Abby Phillips didn't ask a question and say, could you explain what was said that night? It was almost like he was guilty first.
And I think what Bernie forgot was that this isn't a he said, she said story. This is a reported out story.
And I also wonder why Elizabeth Warren has been given the benefit of the doubt. This is a woman who has constantly been dishonest.
He literally said, well, as a matter of fact, I didn't say it. That's 9 words. Unnecessary. No.
You know, his physicality makes me think, yeah, he could have said, you know, listen, I think in this environment a woman can't win.
But this is exactly what's wrong with the media.
Also with Bernie, he has numerous hotspots. He says, well. Liars like to start with, well.
And I can't imagine any woman watching last night and saying, I believe Bernie.
She knocked that moment out of the park.
I think he might have been coached to laugh in this moment, and it's supposed to send a message that this isn't serious. If he said it, which I believe that he did, he would have been better to just own it.
Americans may dislike politicians, but they hate the media more. If forced to choose between Bernie Sanders and CNN, most people will go with Bernie.
Bernie Sanders makes my skin crawl.
Who else needs to fall back?
Bernie Sanders, fall back. Your year was 2016 and it really wasn't. Please get away from us. I just think it's like fetch. It's not going to happen. He also, I think you're disheveled, you're unlikable, and you're pushy. Sorry, guys, but I'm just like sick of old white dudes. Like, go away.
Basically, at this point, if you are still supporting Sanders as opposed to Warren, it's kind of showing your sexism.
The tweet from last night that caught my attention from the political Twitter site called the Horse Whisperer. Okay, since this is trending, here's my Bernie story. The year was 2016, and Bernie was already long eliminated from contention. An actual Democrat would have stopped torpedoing the nominee and worked to defeat Trump, but Bernie had books to sell. The end. That kind of nicely sums up how some Democrats feel about Bernie when they hear him using a Trump talking point.
I think, you know, having Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren next to each other will really highlight, because for me, as, you know, again, I'm not the political analyst here, but just as a woman, probably considered a somewhat moderate Democrat, Bernie Sanders makes my skin crawl, and I can't even identify for you what exactly it is, but I see him as sort of a not pro-woman candidate. And so having the two of them there, like, I don't understand young women who support him, and I'm hoping that having him next to her will help highlight that, because those are the people that if I were her, I would want to say, well, why are you supporting him and not me if you're going to choose between the two of us? Bernie Sanders makes my skin crawl, and I can't even identify for you what exactly, if I were her, I would want to say, well, why are you supporting him and not me if you're going to choose between the two of us?
There were a couple times that you had a couple eye rolls, and just explain your thoughts as you were listening to Bernie Sanders.
Look, I work for Hillary Clinton, so I have a lot of opinions
that was
about
right there.
Bernie Sanders. But, you know, to be very serious about it, I clocked it. He did not mention race or gender until 23 minutes into the speech.
I find Donald Trump reprehensible as a human being, but a socialist candidate is more dangerous to this country than Donald Trump. I would vote for Donald Trump, a despicable human being. I will be so distraught to the point that could even come out of my mouth if we have a socialist, because that will take our country so down. Please step away from the socialism.
You know what I see? Bernie Sanders. Everyone discounts him in the media, and yet there he is. There he stands.
And so
here he is again.